14.27 miles, 8 minutes, 9 seconds per mile overall. Not a bad day. A failed workout, didn't quite hit the marks that I was planning for, but there's a silver lining, kind of. So here was the original plan. The original plan for the day was to do a 15-mile long run, and within that hit a couple of intervals. And the interval I wanted today, I thought would have been a little bit ambitious, but doable. It was going to be 4 by 1 miles. So 4 different times I'd be running 1 mile increments, and each of those would be at a different target pace. And so the first 2 were going to be at half marathon pace, which for me is 6 minutes, 51 seconds. And then the second 2 mile intervals were going to be at marathon pace. And that's about 7:15 for me with a quarter mile jog, however slow I need to, but just keeping moving is the big point of that run. And that was the goal. And the point of that is just one, to keep a long run interesting. I wanted to go for a long run today. It's the weekend. The weather was supposed to be a little bit balmy, like it's been all week. I just wanted to get some miles, but sometimes just a long, steady run gets a little bit boring. And so I wanted to mix it up. Another point of that workout is for pace training. And so that's so that when I'm racing a half marathon, my body understands what it feels like to run at that pace. Or when I'm running a marathon, my body understands what it feels like to run that pace. And the reason why I like to do that within a long run is to simulate the fatigue of a race, a longer race, without having to necessarily run the longer race. And so if you look at a lot of marathon plans, people get nervous because you never run 26.2 miles, for example, as you're training for a marathon. Some of the ways that I mentally get around that is by having these interval workouts within a long run, so that way your body just feels more fatigued and has kind of that sensation of here's what it takes to run at that pace when my legs are tired. And so that's why in a long run, like a 15-mile run, I like to put half marathon mile paces in there, even though that's obviously longer than the half marathon. So that way I have to get a little extra fatigued. So that way when I'm doing those marathon pace segments, I'm a little bit more tired, along the lines of if I were trying to run that marathon pace towards the end of a marathon. So that's kind of the whole point of that workout. And that was the idea. I definitely bit off a little bit more than I can chew. And I guess this is kind of like the excuses section of the video. But some of the things that I really needed to address as part of this workout are things that I hadn't been doing in a while. So I needed to get in a really nice uninterrupted long run. And for me, because of the way that I shoot these videos and the way that I run, I stop frequently. And so I haven't had a good like 10K or even like an 8-mile uninterrupted section of running in probably over a month. And so this was something important to do. And it was my first tempo run since I think the Indianapolis Monumental Marathon back in November. And so I just needed to get the legs moving quickly. Again, feeling that turnover for a longer period of time. And again, without breaks. Some reasons why I wasn't able to kind of overcome those things, which are problems, but not huge problems. And I guess more excuses here is, I did run a relatively fast 10-mile clip the day before. Again, there were some breaks in there, but the 10 miles was at about 7 minutes, 30 seconds average pace, which is faster than my last marathon that I ran in Indianapolis. So it was a relatively quick 10 miles. The weather was beautiful and just felt great. So that's the run that I did on that day. I didn't bring enough gels or eat enough before I went, so I felt like I was lacking a little bit in that department. And definitely the biggest problem I had was water. And so the reason why it was a 14.27 mile run rather than a 15-mile run is because at around mile 13 and a half, 14, I definitely felt like I was getting dehydrated, which is a weird feeling because it's the wintertime and I'm not even thirsty, but there's no water fountains that are on in the area that I normally run and where there's normally water fountains. They're off in the wintertime. And so I didn't bring any water with me today, which is a big mistake. I should have thought of that. Definitely was dehydrated. My left quad and my left hamstring were definitely starting to feel it. And after a certain point, I was like, nope, I have to call it here because I'm going to hurt myself. And so that was humbling and some kind of rookie mistakes, mistakes that I shouldn't have made. But that's okay. It's still early off in the year. I'm not technically in any training block. I just want to kind of get out there. And that's why kind of that's still a pretty good workout for me today. Makes me feel good overall. Is that this workout gives me baseline. So I have a half marathon coming up in 3 weeks. It's not one that I'm taking extremely seriously. It's not one where I have a set PR goal or any competitive goal in mind. It's a half marathon along the lakefront in Chicago in the winter. And so I'm not sure what the temperatures are going to be like, if it's going to be a raceable race or just get out there and survive for bragging rights kind of thing. So we'll see about that. But I do want to start getting my body ready for what that race might be like. So I wanted to get out there and get that baseline of like, these are some of the paces or in that area where I want to be. How's that feeling? Is that realistic? That's kind of one of the questions I answered. And those half marathon and marathon paces that I tried to run today, the first two went out pretty well. The last two, miserable, not great at all. Those paces are the paces that I want to be hitting by the end of 2019. So it lets me know that I think it's doable, but there's a lot of work left to do. And so that's why I think it was overall a really good workout. Plus, even though I didn't quite hit all the marks, even though I didn't quite get the full distance that I wanted, it was a great workout. My legs are exhausted. I got the turnover. I got the feeling of what it was like to run those. I still did the work. Didn't quite hit the paces, but I did the work, and I got most of the miles in. So I'm going to get the benefits of strength, aerobic training, and anaerobic training, all of that into that workout. So while the numbers don't look great, the workout was there. So I'm feeling really good about that overall. They're not always going to be great workouts. You're not always going to hit all the marks. And I think that's ultimately okay. Because if you always hit all your paces, if you always hit all your splits, I think that means that as you're adjusting your workouts as you progress, you're not being optimistic enough or challenging yourself enough. You're always being too conservative and then hitting those marks. So every once in a while, you should have a workout where you're not hitting the marks. I think. I don't know. I'm not a coach. I'm very obviously not coached for long distance running, but that's just kind of the way that I'm taking a look at it and trying to stumble my way through 2019. Before I go today, I want to talk about today's charity runner for the day. Today's charity runner was referred to me by Ollie in Australia. He's got an Instagram, YouTube channel, and Snapchat account. I originally found him on Snapchat on Ollie's blog. And he's been exercising at least 20 minutes every day for well over 1,000 days. He was nearing the 1,000-day mark when I first found him. And I think he just crossed the 1,500 or 1,600 day mark. It's incredible. This guy is just incredibly fit, very inspirational, and a hardworking guy. He turned me on to another guy named David Fletcher. Now, David Fletcher is going to be raising money for the Bob Brown Foundation by running the Tekena 70K Ultra Marathon. And that is an event in the Tekena Rainforest and intended to help protect the Tekena Rainforest, which are, like many rainforests in the world, are under constant assault from man-made encroachment. And so they're working to do what they can to get that area listed as a World Heritage Site and also protect the rainforest, that rainforest in general. So I've donated 15 Australian dollars, and I'll post a link in the description in case you'd like to learn more. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?